Okay, so imagine this for a second. America's next huge domestic spending program. Maybe $1 trillion, right? But it's not going towards, big bridges or finding cures for diseases. It's something, well, totally different. Unexpected, maybe. We're talking about something that feels a bit like an old New Deal program, but with a really, really big twist.
And that's exactly what we're digging into today. The sources we've been looking at, they present this really provocative idea. What if this thing people call the deportation-industrial complex? What if it's not just about enforcing immigration law?
Okay. What else would it be?
Well, what if it's actually working like America's new WPA, the Works Progress Administration, except now it's like a deportation works program.
Okay, a deportation works program.
Yeah. And we're going to unpack that, how this idea sort of reframes what might be happening, what it means for the country, for communities, the economy, all of it. Our job today really is to pull out the key bits from these sources, help you understand this pretty complicated and often hidden system.
Right, so maybe let's start with the original WPA back in the 1930s, just to set the scene. That was pure New Deal stuff, wasn't it? Putting millions back to work during the Depression.
Absolutely. Building things you could see and touch, parks, post offices, even murals, monuments.
Yeah, tangible things, like the sources say, shovels in the ground, lunchboxes and paychecks.
Yeah.
Very idealistic in a way.
Exactly. Now jump to today, the 2020s. The analysis we read suggests a totally different kind of crisis. Not poverty like back then, but abundance.
Abundance. How so?
Well, they call it a surplus, specifically surplus capital, surplus capacity, surplus wealth. They talk about this trillion-dollar military-industrial machine that doesn't really have an obvious war to fight right now. No big foreign interventions soaking it all up.
Okay, I see where this is going.
So the question becomes, what do you do with all that money, that momentum, that infrastructure, when the empire isn't expanding outwards anymore?
You turn it inwards.
That's what the sources argue. You turn inward.
Right. Let's unpack that because, wow, that's a major shift. This idea that the forever war didn't end, it just changed coordinates.
Yeah.
The map flipped from global to domestic.
Yeah.
That's a really powerful way to frame it. And that domestic focus, I guess, leads us right to how these sources define this whole thing.
Exactly. Which brings us to their core concept, the deportation-industrial complex. And they define it very specifically. It's a system of interlocking public, private, and quasi-governmental entities that generate revenue, employment, and political capital through mass deportation, logistics, and infrastructure. It's a mouthful, but every part matters.
Revenue, employment, political capital through logistics and infrastructure.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting here, based on the research, is how this system, it looks like immigration enforcement on the surface, but they say it actually functions like an economic stimulus.
Right. It's not really about border security, they argue. It's about jobs. It's about procurement.
Yeah.
Contracts.
And they give examples, right?
Yeah.
Like turning old Walmarts into processing centers.
Exactly. Every abandoned Walmart into a processing hub, or every small-town sheriff's department into a federal subcontractor, even like every ICE vehicle into a rolling paycheck for someone. It permeates down to that level.
A rolling paycheck.
And this is really crucial to understanding how it works, according to these analyses. The logic is not moral. It is mechanical.
Mechanical meaning?
Meaning it operates based on inputs and outputs, on efficiency, on process, not really on ethics or, the human cost in the traditional sense. It's about making the machine run.
Okay. So if the map flipped inward, who or what is the new target for all this mechanical focus?
Well, the sources point to a huge number, an estimated 20-30 million people, undocumented immigrants. And they're described as being scattered throughout American cities and suburbs, farms and factories, restaurants and ride shares, everywhere, basically.
And crucially, the sources don't frame them as a threat, which is the usual narrative we hear.
No, not at all. They use terms like a demographic, an opportunity, even, a billable object.
A billable object. That's...
Yeah, it is. And it raises a big question, right? How does just having a large population justify spending all this money?
Yeah, how does that work?
Well, the sources talk about what they see as a major miscalculation. They suggest that the Democratic Party believed it had engineered checkmate.
Checkmate? How?
The thinking was apparently that by allowing the undocumented population to swell, they hoped to make deportation logistically impossible. Just too many people to spread out.
Okay, that makes a kind of sense.
But The argument goes that completely backfired. The sources say, if you tell the DOJ, IC, DHS, and hundreds of private contractors that there are infinite people to process and remove, you're not creating a barrier, you're opening a faucet. You're giving them an endless supply of work.
Wow, so the sheer scale didn't deter spending, it justified it.
Exactly. It connects to this bigger principle. You don't deter federal spending by making something vast, you justify it.
Yeah.
Think about, like, the F-35 fighter jet program.
Right, the one where they spread the manufacturing across almost every state.
Precisely. To lock in political support everywhere, make it too big and too distributed to fail, essentially. And the sources draw a direct line. Now, they say, deportation touches all 50 states. Same logic.
That F-35 point makes it crystal clear. You don't tell $1 trillion machine there's no work.
Nope. You give it a workload.
And this isn't just tied to one party or president, is it?
Not according to this analysis. They're very clear it's bipartisan. They say the pivot became explicit, maybe when Trump returned in 2025, hypothetically speaking, based on their timeline.
Right.
But they stress it was already happening under Biden, and even Obama deported record number.
Yeah.
The point is, the machine transcends partisanship. It has its own life, its own momentum.
And because it touches all 50 states, as you said, that creates, what do they call it? Institutional loyalty.
Yeah, exactly. Institutional loyalty. It spreads the benefits wide. They suggest that from the mayor of a sanctuary city to the sheriff of a red county, everyone gets a slice.
Everyone gets a slice.
Think about it. Logistics crews in Idaho, detention builders in Alabama, software vendors in Portland, data analysts in Cleveland. It's a whole ecosystem.
So that buy-in makes it incredibly hard to dismantle, I imagine.
Very resilient. And here's where the analysis gets really stark. They state flatly, there is no ethical debate inside a procurement pipeline. There are only quotas.
Just quotas, not people, not ethics.
And the system, crucially, doesn't need to finish deportation. It only needs to perpetuate it. Keep the machine running.
Perpetuate it, how?
Well, they break down the workflow for every single person caught in it. Identification, surveillance, apprehension, detention, processing, transportation, adjudication, appeals, removal, oversight, every single step.
A job, a budget line.
Exactly. It's designed in a way for perpetual motion.
Okay, let's talk about the jobs themselves. What kind of work does this deportation economy, as they call it, actually create?
Well, the argument is that it's replacing obsolete American jobs with new ones, often blue-collar type work.
Like what?
Things like tactical driving, surveillance, biometric scanning, fence building, document analysis, private security. Stuff where, as they put it, no college required. Just a badge, just a contract.
So, echoing the WPA again, providing work, paid work, especially for people without degrees, a strong back, they said earlier.
Right. But this leads to what the sources call the obscene inversion.
Obscene inversion.
Yeah. They even have a kind of ironic term for it. WPA 2.0, and they define that as the reframing of mass deportation logistics as a domestic economic revitalization effort, echoing the New Deal, but with inverse moral implications.
Inverse moral implications, because the original WPA built things up.
Exactly. Built cultural, civic, and physical infrastructure.
Wow.
Parks, schools, art. But now this WTA 2.0 uses public money to dismantle human presence.
We dismantle human presence. That's heavy.
It is. They say, the shovels still dig, the paycheck's still clear, but the mission is different. This time, the building is in reverse. And they include this really pointed quote, it's easier to get a grant to build a deportation camp than a school gymnasium.
Wow. So this isn't just a temporary thing then, not just a policy fad.
Not according to these sources. They describe it as the new normal, the post-war economy, post-Afghanistan, post-interventionism. The machine is built to last.
It's the system itself.
That's their bottom line. This is not a glitch in the system. This is the system. It creates its own support through budget lines and federal disbursements, money talks, basically, as they put it, kind of cynically perhaps. Once the money flows, ethics become a press release problem.
The incentives just take over.
Seems to be the argument.
So boiling it all down, what does this mean for, for you listening? You wanted jobs. You wanted infrastructure spending, a strong economy. Well, according to this analysis, this deportation-industrial complex is actually delivering that, just in a way nobody really expected.
And the sources leave us with this final, pretty provocative thought to chew on. The deportation state is the new frontier. And like every frontier before it, It comes with maps, missions, boots, barbed wire, and blueprints.
Just like the old frontiers.
The only difference, they say, is this one doesn't cross oceans. It crosses neighborhoods.
And the really unsettling part, it's already here. Something to think about. How this new internal frontier might be changing our communities, our economy, in ways we're maybe just starting to see.